Saving for a deposit is so last year. Hear how you can buy another property without saving a cent. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes, episode 1620. Myself, Michael Burgio Billy Drury, Anton Bonacci, here to talk about buying a property without saving anything. How does it work? The word equity, what is it and how to use it? Good morning, gents.
Good. I'm feeling so local this morning. Local broker in a local cafe. It's quite extraordinary.
Which cafe are you at?
Where are we at?
French Basket, DYB.
French Basket. It's
in Paris.
Number one. Look at this. Number one coffee. It's already gone in DYB.
All right. This morning, let's talking about using equity to buy a property. Anton, talk us. What is equity to start with? How do people get it, and how do they use it?
Absolutely. So look, equity, very hot topic right now as we see property prices continue to rise month on month. It is the hidden wealth builder that people are unaware of. Now, if you are holding a property, and let's just say you purchased that property 1-2 years ago, and let's just say you purchased for $1 million, and maybe that property's gone up 50,000, 100,000 over the last couple of years, you might be sitting on...
So just DY in the last 3 years, 28%. So if you've got $1 million property and it's gone up 28%, which equals $280,000. For a real life example, massive. Real life suburb.
Massive. So what we can look to do is utilize the value that your property has gone up and extract that equity, which is cash, contribute towards your next purchase, whether that be an upgrader or an investment property.
Because when someone buys a property, how much equity would they usually have? What are we typically seeing the percentage of loan to cash going into a property using that $1 million example? Could they do it year one or do they have to wait a bit?
Well, depends guarantee, where they're only putting down, say, a 5% deposit. In that instance, what we can look to do is after that 1 year, 2 year mark, we can look to see how far that property has grown, because what we can look to do is remove the government as a guarantor from that loan, which sometimes can mean sharper rates. Then it might also open up, like we said before, the opportunity to extract some of that equity to use to contribute towards that second purchase. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of my first home buyers doing, is utilizing that scheme, getting into the market, tapping into the market. It's, as we all know, it's really, really tricky to tap into the, especially the Sydney market, but the property market as a whole across Australia. So once they've built enough equity in that property, they can then extract that to get into their second property, and that's how wealth is built.
I love that. You know, from a first-home buying perspective, anyone that has aspirations and dreams to build a property portfolio, let's take it in sort of small bite sizes. First, get into the market, utilize the government schemes with a 5% deposit, because you pay no lender's mortgage insurance, and that's always going to be a hurdle on property number 2. You can get in with as little as 5%, no stamp duty under 800,000, and you're off to the races. And if you're in DY as a marketplace and it's gone up, 28% in 3 years, you've then built your remaining equity to take your guarantee off the loan and then start looking at property number 2. It's an affordable way to do it without having to focus purely on savings.
And a lot of people necessarily always think that their first property's got to be the one that they love. But I think a lot of people need to sort of get that out of their mindset and just look at the numbers. So they may not want to buy with only a 5% deposit or having the guarantor, the government as a guarantor. But as you said, that's only for, especially with the growth on the northern beaches, it's only for a couple of years. And they've really got to look at leveraging the cash they have. They can turn, say, $50,000 cash into having a $500,000 asset. Now, if you look at the growth we've had in 3 years, that's 28%. So what's a better net result for you. Let's say your savings going up 28%, so 30% on 50 grand, or 30% on a $500,000 asset, which will be what's that, 150, 140 odd $1,000. You're in a far better position. Yes, it may not be the ideal unit for the first one. It may not be the ideal scenario for the first couple of years. But as you said, you get into the market and you start planning 5, 10, 15 years in advance.
100%.
And that is the power of leverage, right? Is we're not putting in that initial 30, 50, $80,000 and getting, say, 6, 7, 8, 10% growth on that $70,000. We're getting compounding interest on $1 million asset. And that's the power of leverage right there.
So what's the process if someone's bought a unit? Let's say they initially put down a 20% deposit. It's gone up 30%. So they've got a good chunk of equity. Now, what are the process of pulling that money out to buy a deposit? Are they pulling out cash? How long does it take? Just talk us through that sort of time frame.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, the first process is getting in touch with someone like myself or your broker who can evaluate and request valuations to get the banks to assess how much they believe your property is worth. Now, the trick here is we don't just want one opinion, because if you ask 10 people what one property is worth, you're going to get 10 different answers. So strategically, we want to understand which bank values your property the highest. And this just goes to show that sometimes rate isn't the most important factor when looking to scale a property portfolio, because yes, a rate might be a little bit more expensive at one bank, but if they value your property $100,000 more, what is the opportunity cost of that extra equity that you can pull out to then contribute towards that next purchase, whether it gets you into the second property or maybe it gets you into a slightly better property, right?
Yeah.
Now, the process is once we've conducted valuations and we review your equity on your property, the way that's reviewed is obviously we look at the value of your property and we look at the existing debt that's tied to that existing property. And then generally what we can do is we can extract any equity up to, say, 80% without paying lenders more interest. So we extract all the equity out of that property up to 80%, and then we can use that as a deposit towards the next purchase.
I think a big thing what you just said with getting multiple valuations is important, because a lot of people get really disheartened if they get a low valuation and they sort of feel like, oh, it's not for me. Like, to give an example, when I was buying a unit in Brookvale, I had 4 valuations on it, and it was varied from 850,000 to 1.1 million. It's a big bloody gap, all in the same 2-week period. So it is a little bit of a game. You've got to, and timing's important as well. You just as much as you need to look at your property. Like, for example, if there's a hero sale near your property, you're like, wow, that's a great sale. Wait till that settles, get a valuation, because that will affect your price of your property. And that can, how long does a valuation last? 3 months?
Yeah, 3 months.
Yeah. So you may not want to do something then, you may do it a bit later. So it's a bit of a game. You can get bad valuations, good valuations. You just got to play it. And you may get a good valuation from a bank that won't give you the money. So just don't be disheartened. It's you've just got to play the game, unfortunately. That's how it is.
But you know what, Michael? One thing that I see with a lot of especially the people, the tradies, for example, that buy an apartment in DY, and they're buying maybe something that's a little bit where there's something that could be a little bit of work, right? They go in there, they rip out the carpet, they put some floorboards, they change the kitchen, and they've manufactured some value in that property. Then if they go to the wrong bank to get a valuation done, maybe that bank is only judging that property based off a desktop valuation, which is looking at, your core logic, your RP data, and looking at comparable sales in the market to establish the market value of that property.
Yeah.
However, if they're strategic and you're speaking to a strategic mortgage broker, we would know and have that open conversation with that client to understand, well, you know what, in this instance, you've manufactured some value in that property. Let's get someone to physically inspect that property and establish the real market values instead of looking at the numbers on a desk.
They've just cut out a bit. I think what Anton is saying, that's a very good
As
point.
we know, what is valuation which is aligned to what we're looking to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this is a scalable model, guys. I can talk from first-hand experience. As a first home buyer, utilizing the first home buyer deposit and assistance scheme, you can take a purchase sub $800,000 where you pay a 40 grand deposit, no lender's mortgage insurance, no stamp duty. 5 years down the line, you can be looking at property to, you know, in excess of $1 million, and you have not physically had to pull out a penny, you know, to top your deposit up. As long as the equity is there, anything more than 80% of your loan to value ratio, meaning what the bank assesses your valuation at, to what you know, what excess equity is available after that. That's all usable money. And correct me if I'm wrong, Anton, but it's about a 1 to 5 ratio, being every dollar after 80% of the loan to value ratio, that's usable. So going back to your example, Burgio, if you've got $1 million apartment, it's gone up to 280 grand, 28%. That $80,000 is 5x as available. So guys, get out there, talk to your broker, and if you're looking to scale your portfolio, you're actually sitting on your next deposit without saving a dollar. This is exciting. It's the only way I think you can tackle Sydney's aggressive property market.
And not to dampen the spirit, but also a bit of the hurdle I think it's going to come more important these days is the wage to loan ratio as well. That's sitting about ×6, isn't it, Anton? ×5. So it's very important, yes, to work within your means, but I know especially a lot of friends I've been chatting to lately, they've got, may even have the cash, 300-400 grand because they've done what we've said, but it's ×5 on addition. So if you've got 300 grand and you're wanting to buy a $2 million property, but you're earning 80 grand a year, those numbers just don't work. So it's keeping it like, that's the other part of it as well, which may change. You've got to know that so you can plan forward. You may not get the big leap of going from a 1 bedroom to a house. You may need a few apartments that then you can all sell at once to buy it. But I think the cap on all this positivity is the wage to loan ratio as well. If you just want to shed some light onto that, Anton.
Thanks for bringing us back to reality.
You know what?
No problem.
One thing that I'm seeing is a lot of the younger first-time buyers who aren't utilising the first-time guarantee are utilising the family guarantees. So I've got parents or relatives who own property on the Northern Beaches that are worth $2, $3, $4, $5 million. And what they're doing is they're utilising the available equity in that property without extracting it, just using that house as security towards their first purchase, which allows them to break into the Northern Beaches property market without saving a dollar. Now, when we're looking at the income to debt ratio as well, because they're looking to purchase that property as an investment property, they're taking in conjunction of their salary or their income, the rental income as well, that property is derived. So that adds to that overall income to debt ratio, which allows them to borrow more and leverage more.
Beautiful. So that's if it's an investment, and if you're going to move into it.
Yep, they can also move into it if they're utilising the family guarantee as well.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, what we're seeing a lot of younger first-time buyers who are living at home with their parents, and there's no need for them to move out and pay rent because we all know where the rents are going, right? They're always increasing. Yeah. But if they're living at home rent-free and they've got the luxury of that, they're in a perfect position to leverage and really build out their investment portfolio, growing equity in the property that they purchase. And then eventually what they can do is, as the property increases in value, they can remove their family guarantor on that loan and go out on their own.
Yeah. And like if you're figuring out, well, where do I even get started? It's about, you know, a 1 to 5, 1 to 6 ratio on your income. So, you know, there's plenty of people that are coming out of uni, postgraduate jobs, $100,000 salary. There's your starting point. 500,000 to 600,000 is what you can borrow, add your savings, and you're potentially into your first place. So this is achievable, it's realistic, and it's what's being done in the marketplace.
Beautiful. I think that covers it. Anything else you boys want to add?
That's it from me.
I think it's just the fact that you just need to reach out and take action, because without understanding your game moves, without understanding your next steps, it seems unachievable. But I think what I'm seeing is with a lot of our clients are, until they get that advice, this the key learning advice to go, well, this is how we map out your next 5 steps. I think that's
Beautiful.
Yeah, there you go, guys.
Awesome.
That's equity.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah.